And the best movie of 2024 is Craven the Hunter. If you just want to find out what my number one is, skip to the timestamp, but here's my top 10. Number 10 is Abigail. The main reason I put this on my list is because of how creative and original it was, and it's also just a really fun movie. The concept of some thieves being stuck in a house and fed to a little girl that's a vampire is just a fun idea. It's kind of crazy. It kind of fits into a genre of comedy and horror. It's just a really fun time, and I could see myself watching it during the Halloween season. I highly recommend you see it if you haven't. Number 9, The Wild Robot. The animation alone is very well done, and I found the story to be very touching. This is kind of a feel-good movie, but it also has sci-fi elements, so there's some action to it. I will admit that the ending kind of felt like it was just trying to set up a sequel, and I don't know if it necessarily needs that. Either way, this is an emotional movie, and if they do make a sequel, I would probably watch it. Number 8 is something I did not expect to be on my list whatsoever, and that's Wicked. I'm very picky about musicals. For most of my life, I hated them with a passion. The amount of times I had to listen to the songs from Annie growing up made me resent musicals.
She's sitting playing piano. He's sitting paying a bill.
Shut up! Oh my god, I don't care!
So the fact that this even made my list is incredibly impressive. I think the set design was one of the biggest things for me personally. I could not believe everything that they put together on screen and how much money they put into this movie. With all the money that they spent on this movie, you can actually see it on screen. The choreography was really impressive, and of course the vocals are just outstanding. Yeah, Wicked was pretty entertaining. Number 7 is Fall Guy. I'm so sad that this did not do well at the box office because this movie is so damn fun and gives you a great look into the world of stunts. It's also the idea of a stuntman being hunted down and having to use his skills as a stuntman to get through his situation. And this movie's also just really funny because Ryan Gosling actually has great comedic timing. It's just such a fun movie and I really wish it did better. Number 6, A Complete Unknown. This movie could go up and down in my list, to be honest, because I just saw this movie like 3 or 4 hours ago, but I really like Bob Dylan and the music in this movie. It almost felt like a comfort movie to me. It has a lot of music in it, and I mean, there's maybe more music in it than dialogue, but it's such good music, and Timothée Chalamet really sings like Bob Dylan. So I just really enjoyed it. This may not be in everybody's top 10, but I had a great time watching A Complete Unknown. Number 5 is Long Legs. Not everybody liked this movie, and that's understandable because the ending is kind of crazy. Really, the whole plot of this movie is insane, but I was so impressed and felt creeped out throughout the entire thing. Nicolas Cage is playing a psychotic serial killer, and it creeps me the fuck out because he's going full on Nicolas Cage. I don't want to tell you what it's about because it kind of gives things away, and I went into this movie blind and was shocked. Number 4 is Alien Romulus. Fede Alvarez knows how to create an atmosphere, and he kind of made it a little more gritty. Part of the reason I love this movie is just because of the third act alone. I was not expecting it to get that crazy, and I like that they took this back to horror. It's a really good horror movie. It's not entirely horror, there is action to it, but it's just a great time. I had so much fun watching Alien Romulus. Don't eat while you watch it because you may get nauseous. Number 3 is Dune Part 2. I really enjoyed the first Dune, but you could kind of tell it was setting things up for Dune Part 2, and this movie really paid off. Not only did Timothée Chalamet bring an even greater performance, but the overall scope and size of this movie, the action, set design, the score, they just went all out, and to me, this is one of the best sci-fi movies I've ever seen. It's what I want from Star Wars. It really feels like a movie that was made to be watched on the big screen. Number 2, Civil War. I'm not surprised that Civil War made it on my list because this movie is directed by Alex Garland, and it's an A24 movie. You wouldn't usually expect to see A24 release an action movie, but it makes sense when you see it, and it's just so eerie because it feels so real. It kind of gives you a glimpse into what the world could look like if something like this happened, and it's kind of terrifying. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, and I was getting anxious just watching it. So here's my number 1. and that is Heretic. I was so impressed with this movie because it was fairly simple, but the plot was so complex, and Hugh Grant gives such an amazing performance. The movie really makes you ask questions about religion and atheism, and I think it's a movie that you can see from both sides of that point of view. The movie really makes you think and ask questions. I felt that the pacing was perfect. I never felt that it dragged at any point. From start to finish, I just really enjoyed this movie, and I think there's nothing like it. The ending really evokes questions that you wouldn't expect yourself to ask, and it makes you take a different look at society in general and how we often replicate things. I don't want to tell you the whole story, but I highly recommend you watch Heretic. So that's my top 10 of 2024. I saw way too many movies this year. There were other good movies, but they just weren't good enough for me to put on the list, but still enjoyed them. 2024 was a rough year, to say the least. Making these videos helped me get through it, and I'm excited for 2025 and all the movies that I will see and talk about, and maybe I'll see some of the movies I missed from 2024. Thank you so much for watching and helping me get through this year. Here's to 2025. So yeah,